Thank you for waiting, and welcome to our third webinar of the first open call of Imagine Beyond 5G. We have Jim with us from CETU. He has prepared some slides with the latest or most common questions that we have received in the past 2 weeks. I wanted to give now like a quick status of the call. I want to say that we have already received 14 feasibility checks, if I'm not mistaken. And I would like to explain again and to insist that it's very important for you to send the feasibility check as soon as possible. It's the way to in case you have some questions for the facilities, it's the official way to receive feedback. And well, in some cases, I have to say most of the feasibility checks have been positive already. Some of them, well, it's not that they have been rejected, but like more information has been required from the proponent. Basically, I want to stress that the feasibility check is just to ensure that the proposed experiment or platform extension is feasible to be implemented in some of the facilities. So it's of course we need to have an idea of the proposal, but most important thing is what you will bring in terms of hardware, software, how that will be integrated or interconnected to the facilities. So what, I don't know, interfaces, APIs, and then what you expect from the facility, and especially in terms of hardware and software and functionalities. So again, I encourage you to submit the feasibility check as soon as possible. The deadline for submitting the feasibility check is 18th of August, so still well, a bit more of 3 more weeks. And what I wanted to explain is that the feasibility check is a requirement, so you need a positive feasibility check from one of the facilities, but it doesn't ensure funding, you know. So what is the actual the proposal? That's the document that will be evaluated. We are in the process of creating or forming an external a pool of external reviewers. So pretty much we will follow the approach, and Jim will explain later, used by the European Commission for evaluating project proposals. So we will have a number of external reviewers. They will each will make an individual evaluation form. Then there will be like a consensus meeting or consensus report, the famous evaluation summary report. And we will also use the same structure or process used by the European Commission. So there will be 3 sections: excellence, scientific excellence, the impact, and the project implementation. So and we will the score will be each section from 1 to 5, in total from 0 to 15, minimum of 10 in order to be funded. So it's pretty much for those of you that are familiar with European projects, we are adopting the same approach as the Commission. So that's and what I wanted to say also is that the proposals will be evaluated by external reviewers, and only the ones that score highest will be funded. And there will be also like a minimum scoring in order to get funded. So first step for interested companies in our open call is to start working on the feasibility check, but immediately or even in parallel, you could start working on the proposal, okay? Because it needs to be a very competitive proposal in order to get funded. We are receiving very interesting ideas. Some of them aligned to what we initially we have described in the documents of the open call, but some others that, with new ideas, and I have to say very interesting ideas. So don't feel free to. I mean, if your idea or solution is not included in the documents that are in the web page, the platform, the extensions, platform extensions, and the vertical experiments, we are actually very open and welcoming different and new ideas. Okay. All that said, I wanted to say one more thing is in the last webinar we got a requirement for or questions about the network on wheels solution or deployment available in the Norwegian facility by Telenor. So if you go to the web page, there is a new version of the facility descriptions, and there is some information already about the network on wheels. So please take a look, and in case you have further questions, you can send us an email, and we'll try to provide more detailed information. I have to say that in the last 2 weeks has been the peak in terms of the holiday season in Norway. So in the next weeks, we could provide more detailed information if there is interest. And also in the case of the Spanish facility, in the port of Valencia, we are actually working to have the possibility of using the public network of Telefónica, Movistar, with the possibility of network slicing. So that might be, it's not confirmed yet 100%, but it might be a possibility. And actually there will be another update of the facilities descriptions describing that. Okay. And I think that's everything from my side. And now we will move to the presentation of Jim with some questions that we have received in the last weeks and that we consider that it will be good to share with all of you. And then we will have a final Q&A. So I can see your screen. You are good to go, Jim. Okay. Please go ahead, and thank you.
Okay, thank you, David, and thank you for attending, everyone. So what we're going to cover today is topics and questions that have been raised since the last webinar. And as we've been doing throughout all of our webinars, we've been trying not to overlap from previous webinars, but more cover new items or new questions that were raised. And in some cases, we go back over things we already have discussed, but that have been maybe not so clear. So a number of these have been in relation to the administrative and financial aspects, which is the area that my organization, Southeast Technological University, is covering. So just as a recap, we have there's the possibility of the two different project types, and both of them have a different max duration. So the vertical experiments would be a max duration of 12 months. And if you have a one partner consortium, it's up to 100,000 for one partner and up to 140,000 euros for two partners. And we have it broken down as coordinator 80,000 and partner 60,000. Then for the platform extension projects, the max duration is 18 months and up to 150,000 for one partner team, and then up to 200,000 for a two partner team. broken down as follows: coordinator 125,000 and partner 75,000. Okay, so it gives, you know, some flexibility to the teams and gives some indicative values for the budgets to help you plan for you know, the financial aspects. Okay, a number of questions in relation to the eligibility criteria were raised, so I'm just highlighting these in bold in this slide, which we've already presented. So obviously, any legal entity in Europe or the EU associated countries with a validated PIC number can participate. Each project proposal must be submitted by a single legal entity acting as coordinator. So if you have a team of 2 partners, it would be the coordinator that is submitting the proposal on the behalf of the, you know, the team or the consortium of 2 partners. And the completed application must be submitted before the deadline, obviously, and it can be submitted more than once, similar to the, you know, the EU programs. So you can, you know, submit more than once and keep working on it right up until the deadline. At the time of the submission, the coordinator must acknowledge their prior knowledge and acceptance of the terms of the sub-grant agreement. So if they're successful in being awarded a project, there will be no negotiation for the sub-grant agreement. And as I said on the previous webinar, the sub-grant agreement that we're using has been tried and tested for a number of projects already, and it's applicable to the smallest of organizations all the way up to the largest, you know, academic and or research organizations. So there should be no specific changes apart from things perhaps in relation to intellectual property rights, you know, and then the information about the winning consortium obviously would have to be inserted into the sub-grant agreement before the signing process. And then, as David mentioned, the feasibility check must be carried out by the relevant facilities, and that's you know, going quite well. The other ones where there have been some queries, if the applicants can only be awarded up to 2 projects in different open calls, only if the project's period and the content is not overlapping. So in other words, what this is saying is that if you are planning to put something into open call 1 and open call 2, more than likely the periods and the content will more than likely be overlapping. So that would be a situation where it wouldn't be possible to have 2 awards in open call 1 and open call 2. So it would be more feasible to have one in open call 1 and open call 3. In all circumstances, only 1 application per organization can be funded per open call. So what this means is that you can submit more applications to an open call, but if you're successful in more than 1, only 1 of those will be funded per open call. Then the sorry, I was just letting in someone that's
No, I'm doing it.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay. Then in terms of whether you can apply to other SNS projects, open calls, there's nothing to prohibit this from happening, but under no circumstances is double funding for the same activity admissible. And the SNS projects teams are working together and will be coordinating with each other to determine multiple participations in the open call projects. And again, there's nothing to stop you from doing this as long as they're not you know, the exact same projects doing the exact same things with the exact same teams, because, you know, there could be a double funding situation happening or an operational capacity issue happening if it's the same teams working on the same project during the same period. So this will be coordinated between the SNS projects that are funding the open calls. And then if accepted for funding, the coordinators are required to sign a declaration of honor, which is stipulating that the entity is eligible for financing in line with the rules of Horizon Europe, declares no double funding, and has operational capacity with the possibility for requests for additional documentation if and when required. So it's a standard DOH that organizations have to sign in Horizon projects. Then in terms, as David was saying, there's 3 criteria that for the evaluation. So there's excellence, and this is looking at the clarity and pertinence of the objectives, the excellence, innovation, and approach and methodology, the quality of the team, and the relevant experience and relevant KPIs. Then the impact is looking at how the proposed project is strengthening the competitiveness and growth of 6G through innovative use case deployment, effectiveness of the proposed measures to exploit and disseminate the results, potential for future reuse of the capacities offered by the platform extensions, and appropriate handling of any ethical issues. And then the implementation evaluation point is regarding coherence and effectiveness of the work plan, including the timelines, the appropriateness of the allocation of tasks, resources, and justification of resources. And then it also will look at the appropriateness of the skills and experience of the project delivery team. And then the minimum score of 10 across all categories. And then we'll have 2 ranking lists, as we covered in the previous webinar, to fund 2 categories of stakeholders, whether they're SMEs or other categories. There were a number of questions in relation to the reporting requirement for the open call projects. So we keep this as simple as possible because we want you to focus on the achievement of the technical aspects of your project. But in terms of monitoring during the life of the project, we look for 2 deliverables. The first one is due at the end of the first month, and this is called the Intermediate Execution Plan, and it will have a report on the usage of the partner's resources to fulfill the contract. Then the second deliverable is due at the end of the project, and this is the final experimentation or extension report, including a report on the uses of the partner's resources for the entire duration of the contract. We're using the lump sum model for payment, but for monitoring purposes, the participants are asked to report a certain level of detail in terms of the person month spent, the personnel and other costs, as well as the related indirect costs. And the important thing to note here is that the second deliverable will be accompanied by a corresponding signed request for payment from the partner as evidence that the money has been spent. And then this reporting requirement is outlined in more detail in our sub-grant agreement, which is available on the website for download. In terms of the allowable cost categories, there's been a number of questions in the last couple of weeks on this. So the types of costs that are allowed are personnel costs for the development, integration, experimentation, testing, and validation activities, infrastructure, hardware, and software to deploy the project, travel and accommodation to participate in the proposed activities. And as we were discussing on the other webinars, we're quite open to the project having travels, to the facilities as needed, at the beginning of the project, perhaps at the middle and at the end, and then perhaps 1 or 2 specific Imagine Beyond 5G related events as well. And then if for some reason you underestimate the travel budget or overestimate it, we can be flexible in changing those to other costs like personnel costs when and if needed. Also, a small amount can be used for communications and promotional activities. And then the project will be monitoring the costs and the deliverables, as I mentioned, and will be using the lump sum model for payment. In terms of finance reporting, there's been a number of questions on this. So the tables will be similar in the deliverables will be similar to the tables that are used in the proposal for gathering information on the budgets. So it looks at the summary total for the cost categories and person-month efforts. The indirect costs are calculated at 25% of the direct costs. In terms of records retention, there's been quite a number of questions on this. And what we have always told in previous projects, and we know that that this advice is given out to many projects, is that you should stick to the Horizon Europe rules of keeping the records for at least 5 years. However, it could be longer because you still have to comply with your national laws. So in Ireland, for example, I believe it's 7 years. In Italy, I think it's 10 years. So we just note that you should check in your own country as to the national rules for retaining your records. Then just be mindful of the Article 19 in the grant agreement on information requests, and also Article 25 on anti-fraud from the MGA still apply to our open call participants. These are all outlined in the various documents, the guide for applicants in more detail. Then there's been a number of questions in relation to the the different aspects for proposals with 2 partners. So the one difference in the proposal is that there are 2 tables provided. So for the budgets, so you would fill in the coordinating partner budget in table 1, and in table 2 you would fill it in for the supporting proposal partner. Obviously, if you're just a 1-partner consortium, you just have to fill in table 1. There's been questions about partnership agreements for a 2-partner consortium. So we strongly recommend one is put in place if the project is selected for funding, and we can provide a template which is based on the DESCA consortium agreement variant that some of you might be aware of, and we just rename it to be a partnership agreement. There's been questions about whether a 2-partner proposal can have additional words, over and above the limits. And yes, we are flexible on this. And if you feel you have to, write some more because there's more than 1 partner, you're free to do so. But again, there shouldn't be too much reason to to double up on the amount of words, especially in the descriptions of the projects, because there are 2 partners. But obviously we can be somewhat flexible on this. And then in terms of the payments for a 2-partner consortium, the payments are made to the proposal coordinator directly, and then the proposal coordinator distributes the funds to the second partner. In terms of the payment schedule, there's been a number of questions about advanced payments. So basically, yes, there is an advance payment, but not at the very start of the project, but it's nearly at the very start. And it goes right after the deliverable 1 is approved at the end of month 1. And that's a 35% payment that's made. And then the second payment, which is made after the deliverable 2 is accepted by the consortium, that is 50% of the budget. And then the remaining 15% is made after the successful review of the project that takes place, that incorporates the time that the first or that the open call is being held. Okay, and the reason for this is that we need to make sure that the that the projects, the open call projects, are also reviewed by the reviewers who are reviewing the Imagine Beyond 5G project. So we just need to make sure that those are accepted, within that period of the review. And once they're accepted, then the payments can be made. Okay, just some more information can be found, at the website. We have the email address that you can send any questions to, or your feasibility checks to, is the Imagine Beyond 5G open call at iteam.upv.es. Here's our Twitter link and our LinkedIn link. The first two webinars can be found at these links here. And then in a day or two, this webinar will be placed up as well. Then the next webinar is under discussion for the 9th of August. And this depends on whether there are any outstanding questions raised in the next 2 weeks. And if there is, then we will certainly have a webinar to address those particular questions and issues. Okay, so with that, I think, David, we can open up to any questions at this point.
Yes, I wanted to just maybe comment. I mean, this we have had in case there are two companies that go in consortium, there will be need of signing an agreement, but we will propose, we basically propose to use the it's a common model or template by the Commission that has been used, right? So it's like a standard document. So in practice, we will not, at the end, the agreement between the two parties is not, there could be some specific modifications, but we will recommend to use a standard model from the Commission, and so that we and that model, the two companies could modify it, some specific things in case it's needed, right? So I don't know if we could, Jim, because some companies they don't know that model, just send send a link or something. But in practice, the ones that are familiar with European projects, there is a consortium agreement. Well, there is a grant agreement signed with the Commission, and then there is a consortium agreement signed among all the partners of the project. So the idea is pretty much the same. There will be a grant agreement signed, in this case, with CETU, and then in case that there is more than one company, we will request, as the Commission does with all projects, that there is a consortium agreement, right? And the Commission has actually two models, and we will recommend one, but I mean, one of those models will be good. Then usually in practice, what happens in the European projects is that we always start from one of those models, and then there are some additions by the legal teams in case it's needed. Some others, they are already very familiar with it, and it's fine to sign it as it is, and we will request it. In any case, it's not, I don't think it's something to worry about now, because that will not give you, we will not evaluate that, or we will not start working on that until the open call is, or your project is selected for funded, right? But there are like a standard models for everything, and we will basically follow a very similar approach as the European Commission does. Okay, so that's I wanted to insist on that, because maybe, for the companies that are new to the European funding, maybe it sounds a bit that there is a lot of paperwork, but in practice, there are like models and templates, and you cannot do much. So you just have to sign it, and with the commission, you have to sign the grant agreement the commission gives you. And with the consortium agreement, there are 2 templates. You choose one. You might usually just add the background IP and things like that, and you are ready to go. So don't if you are new to all this, my recommendation is that you focus on the feasibility check and the technique and the proposal. That will that's what will make you good. I mean, in order to get funded, you need a competitive proposal. And then once you are chosen for funding, in case you are new to European projects, we will help you with the process. But it's very much a standard. I don't know, Jimmy, if you want to add something.
Yes, just I put the link for the DESCA agreement, which is kind of the standardized one. Now, of course, DESCA is quite intensive in that it's, sort of built for, very large scale, projects as well as small scale. But so, it's very possible that, as you said, David, we can help sort of carve that down a bit, when the time comes to make it a bit simpler, I think.
Yeah, I'm thinking, and also I received some questions of, like new or very small companies that they are new to European projects, and it seems a bit overwhelming. But yeah, we will able to help, but that's once you are chosen or selected for fund.
Yes.
Okay, so and then I wanted to add also that some companies they have submitted more than one feasibility check to different facilities, and that's perfectly acceptable and valid. And there are different. We have received different cases, so the same, let's say, experiment that could go to one facility or another. And then even one company proposing different ideas or vertical experiments in different facilities. And that's also is not a problem. Each facility will answer the feasibility check. And then that information is useful for the company to either decide or to define or fine-tune the proposal, or to go for one proposal or another. In case that 2 proposals are submitted, you all know that only one will be funded. Okay.
There's a question here, David, about the
yes.
flexibility, so I can address that.
Yes.
So what we mean there is that we're not going to be like the current Horizon system, which truncates the 46th or the whatever page number limit is. It deletes the following page. So if for example in section D background, if you want to have 1 page for the coordinating partner and half a page for the, or 3/4 of a page for one and 3/4 of a page for the second one, which equals 1.5 pages, that's fine. Or if you want to have 1 page for each partner, that's fine also. So we're not going to, that won't factor into making it ineligible by any means.
Yeah, this maybe, we'll discuss it also internally and see, if there is a lot of interest on consortium submissions, we might provide some additional details. Because initially we allowed for that, but maybe it's like it's a process. We are also, it's like with the facility descriptions. It's not there is like new or the facilities are changing. It's more we are receiving a lot of questions and comments, and then we decide sometimes like, okay, then this, instead of answering something to to only one company. It's better that we make all this information available to everybody. Okay, so let me see. I think any additional questions? So for the we plan for another webinar in 2 weeks, but well, in this case, Jim and myself will be on holidays, but the team that is currently on holidays might organize it. We need to check internally, and especially, well, I don't know if well, we will receive as soon as we receive comments and questions, we'll check if there is need for another webinar. In general, if you haven't seen the second webinar, I hope you all have done it. That's a very that's where we explained, we went in detail through all the documents, through the submission system, and so I encourage you to take a look at it. And again, I hope we receive more feasibility checks soon. And as I was saying before, it gives, for example, if you wait until the last minute and then send a feasibility check last day, it might be in case there are some concerns or need for additional information, there might not be possible to do that exchange. So send the feasibility check as soon as possible and start working on the proposal. And
David,
also,
yes. Oh, sorry. There's a question there about the, but I've answered it in the text, but maybe I can just elaborate a little bit more. It's a question about whether it's possible to submit a proposal that spans across 2 verticals, for example, PPTR and eHealth. So yes, that is possible. And in the feasibility check, you can tick, more than one. In fact, in our previous webinars and in the FAQs, we also discussed about the possibility of even having a vertical which is not part of the named verticals, as long as it can be justified and it fits within sort of the technical possibilities within some of our facilities. You can do that as well. And then the other thing which we discussed at length in the previous webinar is that if you could also have a proposal or project proposal that spans across the vertical experiments and also an extension platform extension project, but it must be submitted as one proposal. And the way we said you determine which one it should go to is, whichever is the priority aspect to it. So if it's more of research and development and looking at vertical experiments, and then has a small amount of an extension, hardware, software extension, then you would put it in as a vertical experiment project. If, on the other hand, it's very largely based upon the platform extensions, either hardware or software, which also has a little bit of experimentation, vertical experiments, within the project, that would then be submitted as a platform extension project. And if you have any questions about where you fit best, you can check with us, or you can request that to be checked in your feasibility check.
Exactly. And I will recommend that they send a feasibility check, and it will be possible to say we are open to go to any facility. Please let us know where we fit. So and as I said, it's possible. Several companies already they have sent feasibility checks for several different facilities, and that's again perfectly feasible. And each facility will check if the experiment or extension fits or it's feasible to be implemented. Okay, and well, maybe yes, I'd like to To add that I've been asked sometimes if the deadlines will be extended, and I have to say that so far the interest is very high. So actually, we have received a lot of feasibility checks already, and we know that we will receive more. So in principle, do not count with an extension of the deadlines. I know it's summertime, but we it's whole summer because the open call open beginning of June, and it will go until 1st of September. So writing down the feasibility check doesn't take too much. Send it soon, and then start working on the proposal. We will not analyze the proposals, the consortium, and so just try to get some feedback from people in your own company, some external collaborators. We cannot say anything about that. We can provide some feedback in the feasibility check. And there is still time. So there is still a bit more than 3 weeks to send the feasibility check. And, a bit more than 1 month to the submission. In case by any chance someone submits the feasibility check the 2nd or 3rd week of August, I recommend you that you start working at the same time on the proposal, because the feasibility checks that might be submitted the 18th of August, which is the deadline, they might be answered either Friday 25th or even Monday 28th. So, imagine in case you get the feasibility check positive response 25th or 28th of August, there will be very little time to prepare the proposal. And most likely, if you start working on in the last days on the proposal, most likely the proposal will not be of very high quality. So that's why I encourage you to start working on the proposal, and it is not very long, and then the feasibility check, the sooner you have it, the better, because then you forget about it. And I think from my side, that's everything. I think there are no more questions. So if there are no more questions, we will close the webinar. The last one, we used 2 hours, but there was a lot to explain. It's natural, I think, that there are less questions now, and we have already received and evaluated many feasibility checks. So, I propose we close here. Thank you all for your interest. Looking forward to receive your feasibility checks if you haven't sent them already, and looking forward to receive your proposals and to work with you in the future. Okay, so bye. Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.